Welcome to the Bob Bloom Show with your host, Bob Bloom, a production of South LaSalle. Welcome to episode 4 of the Bob Bloom Show, Gifting a Contract. Today is Monday, March 1st, 2021. The Bob Bloom Show is my commentary podcast devoted to PHP, the Laravel framework, AWS serverless for PHP, and server development technologies and tools. For my 2 new open source projects, I am seeking direct project sponsorship using GitHub Sponsors. GitHub did a terrific job with this feature. GitHub Sponsors allows up to 10 sponsorship tiers. Typically, a developer will offer a single-digit tier, a couple of 2-digit tiers, a couple of 3-digit tiers, and perhaps a few 4-digit tiers. I have seen 5-digit tiers, but not many. Does anyone actually use GitHub Sponsors feature to send $10,000 per month to a developer? Many devs throw in stickers or a t-shirt or a mug for the higher 2 or 3-digit tiers. These are not really inducements, just a little thank you. For 3 and 4-digit tiers, it is common for devs to offer consulting services. Services such as one-on-one calls, installation of the sponsored software onto the sponsor system, customizations of the sponsored software that may or may not be offered as open source software, and prioritizing feature development favored by the sponsor to be offered as open source software. I ask you, is installing software just a little thank you? I ask you, is custom software development just a little thank you? Perhaps you say, okay, if someone signs up for a sponsorship tier of $1,500 per month, and this tier offers software installation, is the amount of money commensurate with what a dev would charge for software installation consulting engagement? In Canada, a charity that holds a fundraising dinner for $250 cannot issue a donation receipt for the full $250. The value of the meal is not considered a donation. A person is considered to have purchased the meal from the venue, not donated that money to the charity. In the same vein, is a portion of the $1,500 really buying consulting services? Is some of the amount not sponsoring the project, but instead buying specific consulting services from the developer? Is the portion that is buying consulting services have legal ramifications? Does the developer think of the consulting they are offering in the context of sponsorship, whereas the sponsor perceives the consulting in the context of, well, consulting? Does the sponsor look at the consulting separately from the sponsorship? A sponsor probably perceives regular consulting engagements. Maybe the developer looks at what they are offering somewhat more casually than they would a regular consulting engagement, precisely because they are offering it in the context of project sponsorship. Sponsorship by its very nature is a gift, a donation. The sponsor gives money to the developer and gets nothing in return. The money enables the developer to work on the open source software. This is the essence of sponsorship. The elemental nature of sponsorship is to enable the dev to work on the project. A sponsor gives money to the developer so that the developer can work on the project. The money a sponsor gives to a developer so that the dev can work on a project is a gift. The sponsor gets nothing in return. Well, except for one thing, the sponsor gets the existence of the project. Beyond the mere existence of the project, the sponsor gets nothing. No promises, no assurance, no outcomes, no products. A sponsor gets no assurances as to the time a developer will devote to the project by virtue of their sponsorship. A sponsor gets no assurances as to the quality of the work performed. A sponsor gets no assurances as to what features will be developed. A sponsor gets no assurances as to the process features will be developed. A sponsor gets no assurances about when features will be released. A sponsor gets no assurances that the software developed will even be usable by the sponsor. A sponsor gets no assurances that the project will include features uniquely required by the sponsor. However, when consulting-ish type of inducements are offered in a sponsorship tier, does something change? Is a consulting engagement embedded into the sponsorship? Is this consulting engagement different than a usual consulting engagement due to its sponsorship context? Due to the sponsorship context, are the rigors and obligations of a regular consulting engagement relaxed? Or is the sponsorship context completely ignored? The normal rigors and obligations of a regular consulting engagement are in effect. GitHub limits the number of characters in the sponsorship tier's description field. I have yet to see a developer link to a page outlining the fine print of consulting inducements. I have yet to see explicit limits on time, scope, and quality. I sense there is an unspoken understanding that a consultant has hard limits on what they can truly accomplish. There is an unspoken understanding that the consulting types of inducements are casual in nature. I sense that there is a certain sponsorship culture among developers that expectations are truncated. Now, personally, I will not accept consulting engagements without first talking to my potential client first. The GitHub Sponsors feature is a sponsorship feature. It's built with processes that befits project sponsorship. GitHub Sponsors is designed for anyone to sign up for a sponsorship tier, and properly so. GitHub Sponsors is not designed for consulting engagements. It is not built with processes befitting consulting engagements. The work required to just understand a client-specific environment can be significant. I need to know my client to determine time, quality, and cost. I need to know my client to assess risks, assumptions, issues, and dependencies. The GitHub Sponsor feature has no The GitHub Sponsors feature has no get to know my client processes. Given that people I do not know can sponsor my projects via the GitHub Sponsors feature, and I thank you for your sponsorship, I cannot offer any type of consulting-ish inducement. In the back of my mind is the fact that Amazon Web Services bills on a pay-per-use basis. I have read enough stories about people receiving unexpected, shockingly high invoices. I worry that someone will blame me for their AWS charges because they relied on something I did during my consulting-ish engagement inducement thingy aspect of their sponsorship. I worry that someone will do something based on what I said during a one-on-one call, for example, causing them to get a whoppingly huge AWS invoice. They blame me because, well, they relied on what I said during the call. So they want me to take care of that invoice. Either I convince AWS to reverse the charges or I pay AWS. The amount is so huge that they say it doesn't matter that I preface the call with you are responsible for all your AWS charges, regardless of what I say during this call. I would sleep better leaving sponsorship as sponsorship and consulting as consulting, and never the twain shall meet. Thank you for listening to this, my 4th episode of my Bob Bloom Show. You have been listening to a South LaSalle production. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of South LaSalle, Bob Bloom, nor of the organizations represented. Links and materials discussed on air are available in the show notes for this show. Information contained herein have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but are not guaranteed. Podcasts are released under copyright. Rights are reserved. Email correspondence to the attention of Bob Bloom at bob.bloom@lasallesoftware.ca.